I basically, the ideas come from basically just sitting around practicing and trying to come up with cool riffs. Some of the stuff was written in the studio, but I mean, it's not like I was listening to anything in particular, or I think the main idea was to try and kind of go back to where we started and revisit that with a little bit more more aggressive modern type of sound after the last record kind of being more of an experimental type of record and trying a bunch of different things. And I mean, it was good to get that out, but now that we did, it was we kind of wanted to remember where we came from, which is a heavier, more aggressive band. Johnny K, he did have an influence, on the record. I mean, look, we used him on the last record, and I think that was why we chose to use him again. He helped put our studio together, which we built up at Aaron's place, and um, you know, he always has a lot of good ideas to keep the project moving, and I'd say that's probably the biggest contribution, and and he'll even tell you, and even if some of those ideas aren't the best idea, he just tries to get you thinking and thinking about the song, the arrangement, and the parts that you're playing. So I think in that sense, there was definitely, a good influence on this record. That's part of a producer's job, I think, is to push you and try things and put you in a place where you're not necessarily comfortable to hopefully come up with something that you haven't done before, and try to make the best song, best album you can, and make it the most interesting you can. The writing process really kind of started off not much different than any other record we've done. We got together, I came in with a bunch of ideas, and we kind of started sorting through them and seeing what everybody liked. I'd say within a couple of weeks, we had about 17 or 18 ideas tracked and, playable from beginning to end. We broke for the holidays and came back and, started sorting through those ideas and, picked a handful of them. I had some notes on them. Aaron did. We sat down, worked on the arrangements, worked on the parts. Refined probably about 7 or 8 of those ideas, I'd say. And it was that time where things kind of started to change and get a little bit different than the way we've done it before. We would normally have jammed it as a band, and this time around, it just didn't seem like things were working the way they should, doing it that way. So basically, I recorded my guitar parts and scratch guitar parts, and John did his drums, and we all kind of went our own ways and ended up doing things completely separate this time. Where I was working at a different studio uh, in Springfield, and Aaron was working up at his place, and Johnny did his bass up there, and John finished his drums there. Um, like I said, we ended up losing John along the way, our drummer, and it was a tough record to make, which I um the name originally we were talking about tossing around the idea that it was going to be seven, and in kind of hindsight, because obviously it's our seventh record, and in talking about it, we just thought it'd be better to do a self-titled album. We'd never done it, and thought that you know it really kind of defines where we are right now, and almost come full circle, I feel, from when we put Dysfunction out back in '99. Um, and that's kind of the album artwork. What we wanted to do instead was reference the number Stained, and hence the Paul Brown, who did the illustration, uh, came up with that seven limb demon that's now the album cover, which I think is pretty cool. He did a great song. Um, look, basically when you do a record, you try to make something that you're proud of from beginning to end, and I gotta say I am real happy with the way the album came out. There's a riff in Failing that I think is really cool. I remember coming up with it and thinking it was probably one of the heaviest things I ever wrote, and I think that song's good. But I mean, look, I like the whole thing, even Something to Remind You, which is just a clean electric guitar and Aaron singing, I think is a pretty moment, but it's not, and it's the one different moment on the record really, from everything else. So kind of stands out a bit. Not Again was one of the first songs that he had kind of put together. And not a lot changed on that song. Some songs really went through a transformation from where they started to where they ended up. I mean, one song we basically, honestly, by the end of the day, there was nothing left to it. It ended up becoming the song Paper Wings. It was a completely different song that Aaron was singing something bluesy over and ended up rewriting the whole thing. But Not Again was one of the first ones. That one kind of stayed basically as is from when we started recording it. And it was actually one of the first songs I think that Aaron sang vocals too. And always stuck out to me. I just thought that it was, really nice melody. And I remember hearing it for the first time, and it was nice to hear Aaron sing with that aggression. The album artwork, I think I had already said. I mean, it's we wanted to reference the number 7 because it's our 7th record. So Paul Brown, who did the drawing, uh, came up with this 7-limbed demon, and I don't know what it means to me. Is I guess you could look at each limb as one of our records. I don't know. I just think it's a cool image. That's all. No, I have not seen the new Transformers movie. I will see it at some point. I haven't been to the movie in months. We've been, finishing the record and doing some other things that I've been busy doing. I haven't really done much as far as recreation goes, and haven't had a chance to get to the theaters to see it. And I don't even think it's in theaters anymore. So, looks like I'm DVD bound and watching it at home. That's fine. So. I haven't even really heard the soundtrack. We were on it. I never even got a copy of it, but I know that there were some other cool songs on there that I did check out, but I haven't heard the whole thing. I think that it'll be nice to get back to the UK, having not been there in a while. Uh, and it's going to be nice to get back there and be able to play some new material. So I know that part of it is that I think some of these new songs have, as we've been rehearsing them, really feel great playing live. So I think we'll be, definitely playing a few new songs along with some of the ones that, you kind of feel like you have to play. Uh, it'll just be nice to be able to reconnect and be able to play some of these new tunes that I think are people are going to like hearing in the live setting. After we get back from Europe, I think we have a couple of like radio shows here that we're doing in the States, and then right after Thanksgiving, which is end of November here, uh, we're gonna go out I think till Christmas and do some radio shows and some of our own shows. January is usually don't do much, and then I think February we're looking to go to Australia, and then March do a proper headline type tour here in the United States. And then hopefully back to Europe for summer festivals next year. Um, that's the game plan for now.